Mine just went blank. That's it. What's the last name? Thank you. Nasta Preshava Ishu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Bhagavati Tamashloke. Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. The reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. I love this verse. 3:26. Devotional service establishes an irrevocable fact. Pretty good guarantee. Okay, so let's see. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26. We're going to read text 50 through 61. Translations. We'll take turns, and we'll come back and read the purport for text 52. Lengthy purport. So we'll take turns on all these. First, we have microphones. Right? All right, starting with text number 50. When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creations, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with the total material energy in 7 divisions.
From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being.
This universal egg, or universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by Pradhana. This in the egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg, which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments.
First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory senses, as well as prana, the vital air.
In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god, who presides over that sense. Thereafter a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god, who presides over it. Next there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, and in its wake the devas, or the deities who preside over the directions.
Then the universal form of the Lord, the Rat Purusha, manifested his skin, and thereupon the hair, mustache, and beard appeared. After this, all the herbs and drugs became manifested, and then his genitals also appeared.
After this, Semen, the faculty of procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereof the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe.
Thereafter, the two hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them the power of grasping and dropping things. And after that, Lord Indra appeared. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them the causes of movement. And after that, Lord Vishnu appeared.
The veins of the universal mind became manifested, and thereafter the leg court. Can you help me with this? What's this? Our blood, in their way came the rivers, the deities presiding over the veins, and then appeared in Dhamma.
Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of the oceans. Then a heart became manifest, and in the wake of the heart the mind appeared.
After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next, and after intelligence, Lord Maha. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva, and after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness.
And we'll go back to text 52. Etaranda Vishakshakyam Krama Vidya Dashotarai Toyat Bibi Paripritam Pradhanena Vitardari Yachulaka Vitanayam Rupam Bhagavato Hare Etaranda Vishakshakyam Rama Vidya Dashotarai Toyadi Paripritam Radhanena Vitavahi Yachulaka Vitanayam Rupam Bhagavato Hare
Etad andam vishekshakyam
Etaranda Vishakshakyam
Rama Vidher Dashotarai
Rama Vidya Dashotarai
Toyaditi Parvitam
Toyadi Paripritam
Pradhanena Vrittarbani
Pradhanena Vitardhani
Yacha Loka Vitanoyam
Yachulaka Vitanoyam
Rupam Bhagavato Hare
Rupam Bhagavato Hare Etaranda Vishakshakyam Rama Vidya Dashotarai Toyadi Paripritam Radhanena Vitardhani Yachulaka Vitanoyam Rupam Bhagavato Hare. Should we read the word for word together? Eta, this, anda, the, Vishesha, Akyam, called Vishesha, Brahma, one after another. Vedha, increase. Dasha, 10 times. Utara, greater. Goya, Advi, by water and storm. Arubitana, enveloped. Varamina, by Pradana. Avita, covering. Rahi, on the outside. Yatra, where. Lokavitana, the extensions of planetary systems. Ayana, this. Rupan, form. Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of God. Hare, the Lord, Hare. Translation. This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by Pradana. Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts. So if I get some volunteers who can take turns reading this purport. Yes, go ahead.
This universe, or the universal sky, which we can visualize with its innumerable planets, is shaped just like an egg. As an egg is covered by a shell, the universe is also covered by various layers. The first layer is water, the next is fire, then air, then sky, and the ultimate holding trust is Pradana. Within this egg-like universe is the universal form of Lord as the Parit Purusa. All the different planetary situations are parts of his body. This is already explained in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. The planetary systems are also considered to form different bodily parts of that universal form of the Lord. Persons who cannot directly engage in the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord are advised to think of and worship this universal form. The Lord's planetary system, Patala, is considered to be the soul of the Supreme Lord, and the earth is considered to be the belly of the Lord. Brahmaloka, or the highest planetary system, where Brahma lives, is considered to be the head of the Lord. This Virata Purusa is considered the incarnation of the Lord. The original form of the Lord is Krishna, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita Adi Purusha. The Virata Purusha is also Purusha, but he is not Adi Purusha. The Adi Purusha is Krishna, Isvara, Parama, Krishna, Sakshat, Ananda, Vigraha, Anirya, Kadir, Govinda is in Bhagavatam Gita. Krishna is all accepted as a Adi Purusha, the original. Krishna says, "No one is greater than me." There are innumerable expansions of the Lord, and all of them are Purushas or enjoyers, but neither the Virat Purusha or the Purusha avatars Karunno Dakashai Vishnu Gargodakshasya Vishnu and Iskara Dakashya Vishnu, nor any of the many other expansions is the original. In each universe there are Garb or dark sex Garb Dakshasi Vishnu, the Virat Purusha, and the Shishya Dakashya Vishnu. The active manifestation of the Virat Purusha is described here. Persons who are in the lower grade of understanding regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead may think of the universal form of the Lord, or that it is advised in the Bhagavatam.
Notes?
The dimensions of the universe are estimated here. The outer covering is made of layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva, and each layer is 10 times greater than the one previous. The space within the hollow of the universe cannot be measured by any human scientist or anyone else, and beyond the hollow there are 7 coverings, each one 10 times greater than the one preceding it. The layer of water is 10 times greater than the diameter of the universe, and the layer of fire is 10 times greater than that of water. Similarly, the layer of air is 10 times greater than that of fire. These dimensions are all inconceivable to the tiny brain of a human being.
I'll read.
It is also stated that this description is only one egg-like universe. There are innumerable universes besides this one, and some of them are many, many times greater. It is considered, in fact, that this universe is the smallest. Therefore, the predominating superintendent, or Brahma, has only 4 heads for management. In other universes, which are far greater than this one, Brahma has more heads. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that all these Brahmas were called one day by Lord Krishna on the inquiry of the small Brahma, who, after seeing all the larger Brahmas, was thunderstruck. That is the inconceivable potency of the Lord. No one can measure the length and breadth of God by speculation or by false identification with God. These attempts are symptoms of lunacy.
Like those things, symptoms of lunacy, to try to understand Supreme Lord, try to measure it. Omegyan Tamanda Shakanathan Shlaka, Shakshurindra Tamanatas, Mashri Vivekam. I was born in the darkness, my spiritual masters opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances unto him. So this description of Virat Rupa, Virat Purusha, it's mentioned here, in other places it's called Virat Rupa, this universal form of the Lord. It's inconceivable, as it mentions. We try to understand. Sometimes you read these different statements and we try to put it into a worldview that we have, but what we fail to realize is the universe is a very big place. You go out at night, you look at the stars, you can see it's very fast. Our brain, very vast. And our brain is about, I don't know, 1 cubic foot, whatever, half a cubic foot. It's this big. So we tend to think we're very intelligent because we can get PhDs and we can solve so many difficult problems, we can figure things out, but the limit of our intelligence fits into this space. Compared to the space of the whole creation, when we stop and analyze that, it helps us to realize there are things that are inconceivable. I remember my spiritual master once said that we have to become comfortable with this concept of achinta. Achinta means inconceivable. That if we're not comfortable with it, it means we're trying to always figure everything out. We get blocked in our spiritual life. Because reality, even material reality, but certainly spiritual reality is inconceivable. There are things that we'll never be able to fully understand. And if we're uncomfortable with that, that's going to be a problem for spiritual life. We have to come to peace with the fact that there are things that are just inconceivable. We just only have this much computing power. If you have a computer with 12 cores, you can process so much. If you have a computer with 800 cores, you can process a lot more. Well, our CPU is finite, it's limited, it's not infinite. So we can process a limited amount of information. So we have to understand that some of these things are just inconceivable. And the main point in here, and of course this whole universal form of a way to understand the Lord of these different, this egg-shaped universe and all the different layers is there, but the thing to take away with it, and it's a little, again, inconceivable, hard to understand, but what is easy to understand, Prabhupada gives this explanation in some of the purports preceding this, is that all these different layers, right? He mentioned different manifestations of Vishnu, and they're difficult for me to all pronounce properly, but you've got these different Purusha avatars. He mentions the main ones. These come up over and over. Karma Dakshay Vishnu, Garbha Dakshay Vishnu, and Shira Dakshay Vishnu. And what's the point of them mentioning these? is that they enter in. All these elements are there: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And they're inert, you could say. They don't become activated until Krishna enters into them in these different forms. And this is a very important thing to understand, because in the material world, our current civilization is very deeply embedded with this idea of Darwinism and the Big Bang and all this impersonal thinking that things just happen. But if you look in nature, if you look in reality, they're basically saying with this whole theory of there's this infinitely dense matter and some explosion caused everything to come about with the Big Bang, and then things evolved into the state they are. But as it's mentioned at the end of the purport, this is just symptoms of lunacy. Because we don't see that in nature. You don't take a stick of dynamite and put it out and blow up a pile of wood and steel and expect to get a skyscraper made of glass and things. If you see a building, you know there was an architect who designed it. If you look at your iPhone, you know that somebody mined the lithium out of the ground, somebody put together the electronics. It didn't accidentally organize itself in that sophisticated way. That would be lunacy to think that this thing just happened accidentally. And so, and Prabhupada gives a nice example in one of the purports earlier in this section, that if you have clay and water and fire, that's fine, you have the elements, but until a potter comes, a person comes and organizes them, then you can create a big brick and build a building. So just having the elements, you need the elements, they're required to make your brick or to build your building. You want a skyscraper, you need glass and steel and all the electronics and everything, but you have to have a living entity, a person, to organize them. And that's true with anything. And so that's the point that's being made here, is life comes from life. When the devotees back in the early 70s, I think it was, I'm not sure who exactly, but I think it was in Sri Lanka or India or somewhere, they made a big poster and they said, we will give you $1 million to, if you could, it was kind of a challenge to the scientific community. We will give you $1 million if you can prove that life comes from life. That if you can, here's the ingredients that they say created life back whenever there was this, they call it a primordial soup, different chemicals, and then somehow life sparked, and then the single cell sparked, and then it evolved into what we have today. So they say, okay, well, here's all of those ingredients, the proteins and the amino acids and whatever it is, you create life. Because it can't be done. It's impossible. You can't take matter and create life out of it. Life comes from life. And it's the same with the living entity. You have a man and a woman, they produce a child. There's life there to begin with, and then from that can come life. It doesn't come just out of the blue. The elements don't organize themselves. So that's one of the important points being made here, is that all these universal elements are there, but until Krishna glances on them, until he enters into them and agitates them or stimulates them, then they can organize, and so many things can go on. And so it's an important point to understand. And another point Prabhupada made here, it just struck me because it's one of my favorite verses. It's one of the, probably the first verse I ever memorized. I'm not very good at memorizing shlokas. I can't seem to keep them in my brain. But this one stuck with me. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Anadira Dear Govinda Sarvakar and the Karna. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. Parama means supreme. Ishvara is controller. So that's an important statement, even if you don't remember the whole verse. If you can just remember Ishvara Parama Krishna, that's it. Krishna we can remember. That word is sort of stuck with us. Ishvara Parama Krishna. In other words, Krishna is the supreme controller. We talked about this before. If we can remember, okay, sometimes going through the material world, life can get a little blurry, things can get a little complicated, we can become a little bit affected by the modes of nature. And so we have to just have some core things we can hold on to no matter what. And for me, this is one of them. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. So this situation I'm going through right now, which looks very difficult or unfriendly or bewildering, or I don't know how to deal with it, I have to remember Krishna is the supreme controller. So nothing can happen without his either doing it directly or allowing it to happen. So he's in control, and he's my friend. So then I don't need to be afraid. I don't need to worry. I just have to trust that I may not understand it. I may not get why everything's happening, but he's my friend, and he's in control. And all these material energies are artificial. I mean, not artificial. They don't have a life of their own. And so that can be very comforting for us when we realize, okay, then let me just trust that Krishna knows what he's doing. He's my best friend, because the materialists won't tell you this, and the non-devotees, the people who aren't engaged in the spiritual life, you'll get so much advice. You should do this, you should do that. But we have to remember, no, I should understand. Life comes from life. Krishna's my friend. Krishna is the controller. And so therefore I should make decisions and trust that these spiritual practices that I'm doing, these spiritual concepts I'm trying to understand, they're supreme. Because matter presents itself much differently. It makes it look like it's supreme. I mean, some of the examples I can give from my life is many times throughout my career, sometimes you get in situations in the world where you have to do things that it's hard. You're trying to practice your spiritual life. You got to go to work so many hours, and it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to do this and that. But we have to remember, I don't work for this person. I don't work for that person. I work for Krishna. My boss that he's giving me is just his representative. So all these authorities that I need to deal with, I simply need to work for and please Krishna. If I do that, then these people will be pleased. And I give that by example. Sometimes you have some work you need to do, or some report, or some task, some paper, some test, and we need to certainly study and apply ourselves to do these things that we have to do. But sometimes, if I have to chant my rounds, that takes so much time. I'm not going to have so much time to study, so I will, let me just study first and then chant later. And this is a recipe for disaster. There was a case one time where a boy was studying to be a doctor, and he set aside his chanting. He said, well, let me just finish my studies and get my degree, and then I can go back and pick up my spiritual life. And so he did that, and the day that he got his certificate, now he's a doctor, he had a heart attack and died. It's a true story. And so we should always put first, and I've experienced this many times. I've had very high-end jobs that were very demanding and high profile, and I'm just going to focus on what I need to do for Krishna. I work for him. Let me chant my rounds. Let me do those things I need to do, and then somehow or other I'll figure out this other thing that I'm supposed to turn in, which I don't have ready. Let me worry about that after I finish my rounds. And I've done that for years, 20, 30, 40 years. But somehow or another, Krishna gives me the intelligence to either cancel the meeting that I have to present, or he'll tell me what to write, and I'll type it up. And you can be amazed when your consciousness is clear. You can type up a tremendous report in a short period of time and turn it in, and they're happy. So I've learned over the years, let me just focus on Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. Let me satisfy him, and then all these other responsibilities, they'll work themselves out. Not that we're irresponsible, we don't do our studies, we don't do our homework, we don't prepare. We need to apply ourselves. But first, we need to apply ourselves to understanding this point that's being made, is that life comes from life. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Let me satisfy Krishna. And then he'll give me the intelligence. And this is repeated. Prabhupada repeats this over and over and over in his books. That if we please Krishna, from within the heart, Krishna will give us the intelligence to do what we need to do. It's guaranteed. And I've certainly experienced it in my life. I don't have so much qualifications for most of both in my devotional service and in my professional life. I've been put in situations where I'm just not qualified to do this. I don't have the skills it takes. But by simply surrendering to Krishna and trying to please the spiritual master, somehow I do things and they work. And they call it the imposter syndrome. Even though I'm qualified, somehow Krishna lets these things go on and lets me succeed. So this idea of life comes from life. Krishna enters into the material energies. It's an important point to understand because it's contrary to what's out there in modern society. They think everything's mechanical. We can solve our problems with our computers. We can solve it with AI. We can solve it with science. And science has its place. Certainly we can create microphones and lights and heaters, and we can do things with science that are useful, but they're not the cause. They're tools to be used. They're not going to solve the problems of life, which Prabhupada said are basically four: birth, death, old age, and disease. Try to solve those with science, right? Those are the real problems we need to solve. And that can only be solved through spiritual realization, through understanding that we're not this body, we're spiritual entities. So that was the main point, I guess. I drove into the parking lot. Shruti Sargar sent me a text about talking. Today's a fast day, we fast half the day. And so can I please talk about Lord Varaha? And I'm thinking, well, I'm not prepared. I didn't prepare anything to talk about him. So I'll try to think of something to say. And then tomorrow's Nityananda's Prince Day. I can't not say something about him, but we don't have a lot of time. But first I want to ask if there's any questions about this section we read with all these universal elements and life comes from life and things like that. Ask questions. I see two hymns in the back.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru. Somebody has crunched the numbers in regards to those layers. And apparently, if all of those layers that are each 10 times greater than the previous one were the size of 3 sizes of Earth on Earth, the space within, can somebody take a guess?
The space within.
Yeah, there's a layers and then there's a space within.
Right.
That's the universe we live in.
Right.
If the layers were the size of 3 planet Earths, how big is that space within?
I don't know.
Yeah, somebody has crunched the numbers in terms of ratios.
Okay.
And this is to illustrate the how secure this confinement or prison is. The space within it's the size of a basketball.
Basketball.
And then you have layers
Yeah.
that are 3 times the size of Earth. Very difficult to escape.
Yeah.
Durga.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've experienced it. You're all still young. In the course of my life, I've been forced to realize not only that way mathematically, but just as we try to control. Prabhupada talks about the more we try to lord it over the material nature and control it, the more entangled we get. And I've certainly experienced that to a point. The purpose, the actual reason the material universe exists is to give us the opportunity to try to enjoy it, but it's designed into it. The Prabhupada calls the kicking. The suffering is built in. And so the purpose of it is to bring us to the point where we just say, okay, I can't get out. This prison is impenetrable. I'm never going to get out of here. And so then we can surrender. And that's spiritual. Spiritual life doesn't mean I'm going to conquer over my senses and I'm going to understand and achieve it. Spiritual life means I'm going to surrender to Krishna. I'm going to serve him and please him, and then he'll unlock all those layers. He'll take the key and say, okay, here, you come out. we're not gonna force ourselves out. It's impenetrable, as whatever mentions. We're this tiny thing. It's just, there's no way to get out unless somebody comes and lets us out. Someone else had their hand up. Yes.
While you were talking, I wrote down my question.
Okay.
Yeah, if the Virat Purusha is a merciful interface designed for conditioned consciousness, then is disagreement between religions evidence of different gods or evidence that the same reality is being perceived at a different depths of the same revelation?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, that's. I'm not sure I understood the question. I would say it's probably the latter. Different religion. Well, there's two. I guess there's two answers I would have. Different religions are, one, they're an expression that we're individuals, that everyone's not the same. We're all unique. This idea of utopia, everything will be perfect and happily live ever after, is a little bit of an illusion because everyone's individual. And even in the spiritual world, there are disagreements, you can say. People see things differently. But because it's spiritual and it's focused on Krishna, it's all transcendental, it's all ecstatic. But some people like to offer Krishna red flowers, and some people like to offer white ones. And they'll debate about which ones are better. And this kind of garland's better than that one. But they're both garlands, they both please Krishna. So that those differences of opinion just create more nectar. The other answer is there's different religions, because if you go to a grade school, I don't know when they start teaching 2 and 2 is 4. I think it's pretty early. Basic mathematics. And then you go to college, they teach calculus and trigonometry and other principles. And the professor will never say 2 and 2 is 4. That's understood. But all the mathematical formulas, they never violate the principle that 2 and 2 is 4, because that's a fact.
Right.
But there are different angles of vision, and there's different levels of comprehension of
Like a
reality.
prison. Like when
It's like
Michael was doing
prison,
prison.
yeah, that's a good example. And so there's different religions, and people have, Jesus came to teach, love God, don't steal. I mean, that was even before him, Moses, don't steal, don't commit adultery. The 10 Commandments are basic.
Right.
Jesus taught, just love God with all your heart and love your neighbor. And for that, they killed him. They couldn't handle a very advanced spirituality. They couldn't handle basic civilization.
God conscience, yeah.
The Vedas say that civilized human being means you follow the 4 regular principles.
And it's Aryan.
Hmm?
And it's like, they would make an Aryan society.
Yeah, an Aryan meaning God conscious society. Yeah. And so there's different religions to teach different aspects. Some focus on surrender, just surrender. Don't worry about anything else, just worry about surrender. That's the most important thing. So different religions teach different aspects. All of those are true.
Right.
If it's a bona fide religion, they have some truth.
Right.
They may not contain all of it, but they may look different on the surface, but if you study their teachings underneath, the Bible contains love of God.
Yeah. And they see God like in the Virat Purusha, it's impersonal, because I'm not gonna be too much, but then I have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If God deliberately reveals himself through the universal form so that finite minds can approach him without mistaking the revelation for his essence, then a sectarian conflict the result of people absolutizing the interface while claiming exclusive access to the source.
So, I don't know if I understood that completely, the question, but what comes to mind is a statement Prabhupada makes here. The active manifestation, this is in the second paragraph, near the end of the second paragraph of the purport we just read. The active manifestation of the Virat Purusha is described here. Persons who are in the lower grade of understanding regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead may think of the universal form of the Lord, for that is advised in the Bhagavatam. In other words, this universal form is given to people who can't comprehend that God's a person.
Yeah.
You say God's a person, they think, well, like me or like you. No, he's not that kind of person. He's different, but he's a person. He has feelings. He's an individual, just like you and I are individuals. It's a basic concept, but it's also a very elevated concept for a lot of people. That If you just understand that, you're pretty far along in spiritual life. Some people can't get there, so there's universal form. Okay, we'll at least picture him in creation. Here's the planets described in places, the trees with the hairs in his body, and the mountains are his bones, and then they can at least think that, okay, well, there is a God, and although it might be an impersonal concept, it lifts their thinking a little bit. But for devotees that want to go deeper, we understand these things are all material energies, and it really has nothing to do with God. So I'm just going to say two things. We don't have much time, so I'm just going to make a short comment about Lord Raha, and then I can't not say something about Lord Nityananda. He's too merciful. But Lord Raha, we're celebrating today his appearance day, and he is the consort of Bhumi, Mother Earth. And so, at least for me, what I take away from this pastime, it's a little inconceivable. Krishna can appear in so many forms, animals, humans, so on, and he does. So his form as a boar is hard to understand, but the principle that the earth was thrown into the bottom of the ocean, this was prior to its being populated. Sometimes the question comes up, what about all the people? They must have drowned. But there were no people at that point. Creation hadn't happened yet. I mean, some of creation had happened, but it hadn't been populated yet. In fact, that was the persons who were deputed, assigned to populate it. They said, well, it's in the bottom of the ocean, so what do we do with the people that we create? Where are we going to put them? So Lord Raha came to retrieve it, but the principle, at least for me, that's interesting and satisfying or comforting is that the earth is his consort. So she's in some difficulty, so he comes to lift her out and rectify this situation. And this is what Krishna does over and over. He comes to deliver his devotees, to protect them, to pull them out of their situation. There's a nice painting you see sometimes of the devotees in the ocean, and the waves are coming around him, and all you can see is like the top, a little bit of his neck and the top of his head, and he's reaching his arm out. So he's basically drowning in this ocean, and then Garuda's coming, and the Lord's sitting in the back of the Garuda reaching down to get him. So it's a nice painting you may see sometime, basically just showing that when we're struggling or we feel like we're drowning, Srila Prabhupada says if you want to chant effectively, you chant with the mood that Krishna, I'm trying, but I'm failing. And so then that desperation is there. It's not working. My attempt isn't enough, so please help me. That sense of dependence and desperation creates a mood that we understand. On my own, I can't do it. Krishna, please help me. And so this mood is there with Raha saving the planet Earth, Mother Bhumi. And we don't have a lot of time, so that's a little bit we can share about Lord Raha and his mood, which we're honoring today. And Nityananda, I'll just say one thing. I'll probably talk tomorrow about him. It's his appearance day, but something that His Grace Vaisheshika said that really struck me. Because Nityananda is an interesting character. He's not a dude. He doesn't care about societal rules, and he just does what he wants to do. And sometimes he's a little bewildering. Haridas Thakur called him a crazy man. He said, "You're insane. You're going to get us killed." Because he would take and say, "Let's go do Harinam," and we'd go into the bars and all the places where all the fools and renegades are, and let's deliver them. And Haridas said, "They're going to kill us. What are you thinking?" So this is Nityananda's mood. Yeah, that's the painting. Thank you. And so this is, I don't know why I connect that to Raha. I've never heard that done before, but in my mind, this is the mood of Raha coming to. He also, there's another pastime of him wanting to fight, but he came to deliver the earth in the same way that Vishnu is coming here to deliver this devotee. And Krishna does this. Just paint this picture in your heart, because if you ever need, all it takes is to call out to Krishna in desperation, and he'll come. There's a very beautiful little story I tell at Japa retreats that illustrates this. So anyway, briefly, Lord Nityananda. So Lord Chaitanya came to give mercy to anyone who wanted it. Right? There were no qualification. You didn't have to be pure or elevated or scholarly. Just anyone who wanted it, he came to give it. Lord Nityananda came to give mercy to anyone who didn't want it. So he would go on to all those places for the people who had no interest in spiritual life, the drunkards and the thieves and the rogues, and he would just beg them, almost force them to take this mercy, take this indescribable mercy the Lord Chaitanya is giving. So his mercy is just indescribable and inconceivable. And he's a dear, he loves Lord Chaitanya so much. Of course, we understand he's Balaram. But his mood of mercy is just unfathomable. He's so eager. And so by approaching him, giving his mercy, without that, you can't make advancement. You can't please Lord Chaitanya. You can't really understand Krishna or make advancement. So his mercy is critical, but his mercy is so easy to obtain. And the beautiful pastime of Jagannath, which I'm sure you've heard many times, and they broke the pot over Nityananda's head, and Lord Chaitanya was going to finish them off. And then they surrendered. One of them, Jagai, came to his senses and surrendered. And then finally, what I did, I prayed to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya said, for me, I'm going to punish you. You go to Nityananda, whatever he says, that's what we'll do. And Nityananda gave him his mercy, so he was delivered. So that's, anyway, nice meditation for me. Even those who don't want it get the mercy. Thanks to Lord Nityananda. So I'm going to stop there. I think we've used our time. Kritra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki So you guys aren't fasting today?
Fasting tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Just the seniors will do until noon, but the devotees here, they do service and stuff.
Okay, well, good. That's very good. I'm sorry that I misspoke.
You said the earlier,
Huh?
it's ways on the electoral calendar.
So,
Yeah, it's just,
I'm just talking about, I don't know.
Yeah.
From PowerPoint to the
Apsani Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swabha Punya Bhutanaja Vishwasone Vishayate.
Fortunate persons will have faith in Mahaprasad, the spiritual improvement of the Lord, and the deity Sri Govinda, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the transcendental Krishnanam and the Vaishnavas. Bhagavat Mahaprasadam ki!
Jai. Lord Brahma ki. Nityananda ki.